presented by Soundlibra.com. Explore more titles via the link in the description or at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to The Question Habit. I'm Alex.
And I'm Lisa. We're thrilled to begin this journey with you.
Before we dive in, just a quick heads up. While we'll be discussing mental habits and self-inquiry, this isn't medical or professional mental health advice. So, it's always a good idea to consult with a professional for your specific needs.
That's a great point. Today, we're really exploring the immense power hidden in the questions we ask. Have you ever had a moment of deep discovery that came from your own inquiry?
Exactly. We'll be looking at how asking better questions can change your life, your growth, relationships, career, and well-being.
I often find myself accepting things without digging deeper. We get answers, but are they truly the best ones for us?
That's the essence of our series. But what makes a question better? We ask questions constantly like, what's for dinner? Or how was your day?
Those are often closed questions leading to simple yes or no answers. They don't encourage exploration.
While an open question like, what are your thoughts on that? Invites a whole conversation.
Exactly. We'll focus on questions that spark curiosity, challenge assumptions, and reveal hidden insights.
So, these powerful questions are like keys, unlocking new understanding for us.
That's a perfect analogy. We'll explore the Socratic method, coaching techniques, and self-inquiry to build your personal curing of questions.
And this isn't just theory. It's highly practical for everyday life, Alex.
Absolutely. We'll show you how to implement these skills. For instance, with parenting, instead of asking, "Why did you do that?" we can ask, "What were you hoping to achieve?"
That reframes the entire interaction from blame to understanding. And it applies to ourselves too.
Yes, turning that questioning power inward is crucial. Are your internal dialogues constructive or filled with self-criticism? Learning to ask yourself the right questions is key to personal freedom.
So, this series is about retraining our minds to be more curious and open to discovery, both inside and out. We can move from asking mediocre questions to asking better ones.
Mediocre questions often stem from assumptions. Powerful questions dismantle those assumptions, inviting new perspectives and possibilities.
It feels like we're building a muscle for asking questions. The more we practice, the stronger the habit becomes.
That's the goal, to make it an ingrained habit. We aim to shift from passively accepting information to actively seeking understanding.
And that active pursuit leads to real insight and better answers, going beyond the surface.
This episode highlights that the questions we ask hold immense power to unlock perspectives, foster connections, and drive personal evolution. We're setting the foundation for actively pursuing understanding.
To summarize, asking questions is a powerful, often untapped resource for transformation. Many of us ask closed questions. This series will help you cultivate a question habit by learning to ask more insightful questions, drawing from Socratic dialogue, coaching, and self-inquiry.
A great recap, Lisa. We're not just teaching tricks. We're helping you build a new approach to learning, problem solving, and connecting with the world. It's about unlocking curiosity and changing perspectives.
And it all starts with that first powerful question.
Are you ready to start asking better questions?
I most certainly am.
Wonderful. Next time, we'll explore the Socratic spark and how to question assumptions to uncover deeper truths.
Thanks for listening. Next episode, The Socratic Spark, Questioning Assumptions. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the unseen power of asking questions.
And today, we're diving deep into how to use questions to challenge our own deeply held beliefs. We're talking about the Socratic method.
The Socratic method is about using a series of probing questions to examine our own assumptions and beliefs. It's about rigorous self-examination. Socrates famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living."
So, instead of just accepting something as true, we use questions to break it down and see if it holds up under scrutiny. It's like being your own best detective.
That's a perfect analogy. Picture this. You have a belief, let's say, "I'm not good at public speaking." Instead of accepting that as fact, a Socratic approach would lead you to ask, "Why do I believe I'm not good at public speaking?" Then, from that answer, you ask another, "What evidence do I have that supports this belief? What evidence contradicts it?"
Okay, the initial belief is an assumption. The Socratic method is the process of questioning that assumption to its core.
Precisely. You're not just accepting the surface level statement. You're digging deeper. You might continue to ask, "When did I first form this belief about my public speaking abilities? Was there a specific event? And if so, how did I interpret that event at the time? Could there be another interpretation?"
This feels empowering because it shifts the focus from a fixed state, "I'm not good," to a process of inquiry. You're exploring its foundations.
That's the key. It's about uncovering the reasons behind our beliefs and then critically evaluating those reasons. Socrates would engage people in dialogue, leading them to conclusions they hadn't fully considered. He'd start with a simple statement, like, "Justice is giving people what they are owed," and then ask questions that revealed contradictions or deeper complexities.
So, the goal isn't necessarily to discard the belief immediately, but to understand it better and perhaps refine it or see its limitations.
Exactly. Think about common assumptions. For instance, an assumption like people always mean well, even when they say hurtful things. The Socratic method might ask, is it always true that people mean well? Can you think of times when someone deliberately intended to cause harm? What does meaning well even look like in that context?
That's challenging an assumption with a counterexample and a request for clarification. It's clear and direct.
And it forces us to confront the nuances. We often operate on generalizations. The Socratic method pushes us to examine those generalizations. Another core element is looking at the consequences of a belief. If you believe, "I must always please everyone to be liked," a Socratic question might be, what are the consequences of constantly trying to please everyone? Does that lead to your own well-being? Does it allow you to be authentic?
So, you're not just questioning the belief itself, but also its impact on your life. That brings a practical application to the philosophical approach.
Absolutely. And this applies to any area of life. In leadership, for example, a manager might assume, "My team isn't performing because they're lazy." A Socratic approach would be to ask, "What evidence do I have that they are lazy? Have I provided clear goals and sufficient resources? Have I offered support and feedback? What other factors might be contributing to their performance?"
That's so much more constructive than just labeling the team as lazy. It opens up possibilities for solutions. This method really seems to be about intellectual humility, doesn't it? Acknowledging that we might not have all the answers and being open to discovering them through questioning.
It is. It's about developing a habit of critical thinking, not just about external information, but about our internal landscape, our thoughts, our beliefs, our assumptions. And it's a skill that can be learned and honed. Remember when we mentioned in episode 1 that questions are powerful tools? The Socratic method is like giving those tools a very specific, very effective design for dismantling unexamined beliefs.
So, to recap today, the Socratic method is a way of using a series of focused questions to examine our own beliefs and assumptions. It encourages us to ask why we believe what we do, to look for supporting and contradicting evidence, to consider the origins of our beliefs, and to analyze their consequences. It's about digging beneath the surface and fostering intellectual humility.
That's a great summary, Lisa. It's a powerful technique for gaining deeper self-awareness and a more accurate understanding of the world around us. By consistently applying these kinds of probing questions to our own thinking, we can start to build a more solid foundation for our beliefs, rather than just accepting them passively.
And it's the perfect way to transition to what we'll be discussing next time. We've looked at questioning our assumptions, and next week, we're going to shift our focus to how you can use powerful questions in a coaching context.
Excellent. So, we've explored the Socratic spark for questioning assumptions. Next episode, coaching your inner dialogue. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the Socratic spark and questioning assumptions. Today, we coach our inner dialogue.
We're turning that powerful spotlight inward to have a more supportive conversation with ourselves.
Exactly. Most of us have an inner critic. Coaching your inner dialogue means cultivating a wise, encouraging guide instead of a nagging voice.
So, it's about how we talk to ourselves about difficult feelings and challenges. What's the first step?
Awareness. Become aware of your internal conversations. What are the recurring thoughts? What's the tone? Is it critical, fearful, or curious? This self-awareness is the foundation.
I need to listen to what I'm telling myself. Then what? Do I just tell the negative thoughts to stop?
Telling yourself to stop often doesn't work long-term. Instead, introduce questions. Instead of, I'm so bad at this, ask, what can I learn from this experience? Or how could I approach this differently?
Shifting from judgment to learning. Replacing definitive statements with open-ended questions that invite exploration.
Precisely. We borrow from coaching. Coaches ask powerful questions to help clients find their own answers. We apply this to our own minds.
What kind of questions should we be asking our inner selves?
While why questions can be useful, they can lead to rumination or blame. Asking, why did I mess up? Might lead to self-recrimination.
Right, it can feel accusatory.
Exactly. Reframe why into how and what questions. Instead of why did I mess up? Ask, how can I learn from this mistake? Or what steps can I take to improve? One focuses on past blame, the other on future growth.
How can I learn? And what steps can I take? Are action-oriented and empowering. They focus on solutions and moving forward, rather than dwelling on the problem.
That's a wonderful way to put it. You're becoming the project manager of your own self-improvement. Another powerful category is possibilities and vision. Questions like, what do I really want here? Or what would success look like?
This feels like clarifying intentions. It's about painting a picture of what you're aiming for, not just reacting.
Precisely. By asking these questions, you're actively directing your mental energy. You're coaching yourself towards desired outcomes. Consider the difference between, I'm so stressed about this deadline, and what's one small thing I can do right now to feel more in control.
That's a practical example. The first amplifies stress, while the second suggests a path to reducing it. It breaks down overwhelming situations into manageable actions.
It is. Remember, this isn't about having all the answers immediately. It's about developing the habit of asking these constructive questions. The more you practice, the more your inner dialogue will shift towards inquiry and problem solving.
So, to recap, we start with awareness of our inner dialogue. Then, instead of self-criticism, we coach ourselves by asking powerful questions, reframing why into how, and what questions helps us learn and move forward. We also use questions to clarify desires and identify actionable steps.
That's a perfect summary. You're training your mind to be a supportive ally. This practice of coaching your inner dialogue is crucial for personal growth, resilience, and making better decisions. It allows for self-compassion while still driving progress.
It's like building a positive and effective internal support system. We create a space to explore, learn, and grow without the judgment that holds us back.
Indeed. So, the next time you catch yourself in self-criticism or feeling stuck, pause. Ask yourself a coaching question. Start with something simple. What's helpful to focus on right now? Or what's one step I can take?
I'm going to try that immediately. It feels like an accessible way to make a real difference in how we experience our own thoughts and feelings.
Excellent. And your journey of self-discovery continues. Next time, we'll be exploring the mirror of self-inquiry, digging deeper into how questioning helps us understand ourselves more profoundly.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you for joining us today on The Question Habit.
Happy learning!
Welcome back. Last time, we explored coaching your inner dialogue. Now, let's tackle the mirror of self-inquiry.
Self-inquiry. That sounds like a deep dive, Alex. What exactly does that mean in practice?
It's about turning your questioning skills inward, Lisa. Instead of just observing the world around you, you start to observe yourself with curiosity. It's like holding up a mirror, asking your inner self, who am I, really? What drives me? What do I truly value?
So, it's not just about asking questions to yourself, but asking questions about yourself to understand yourself better?
Exactly. Think about it. We often spend so much time trying to understand others, their motivations, their perspectives. Self-inquiry is about applying that same intellectual and emotional energy to our own internal world. It's a powerful tool for uncovering your core motivations, your deeply held values, and the underlying beliefs that shape how you see the world and how you act within it.
That makes a lot of sense. Sometimes I feel like I react to situations and then I wonder, why did I do that? Or why did I feel that way? It sounds like self-inquiry could help answer those why questions about ourselves.
Precisely. It helps you move from being a passenger in your own life to being a conscious navigator. When you understand your motivations, you can make more intentional choices. For example, if you value loyalty, recognizing that can help you understand why certain situations might upset you or why you commit so deeply to certain relationships.
And I imagine this leads to a stronger connection with ourselves. When you understand yourself better, it's like you're not a stranger to yourself anymore.
That's beautifully put, Lisa. It cultivates a profound sense of self-awareness. And this isn't just an abstract concept. We can practice this through simple, yet incredibly effective techniques. One of the most accessible is journaling with intentional questions.
Journaling. I've tried it before, but sometimes I just end up writing about my day. How can I make it more about self-inquiry?
Instead of just recounting events, you ask probing questions about them. For instance, after a challenging interaction, you might write down the situation and then ask yourself, what assumptions was I making during that interaction? What unmet need might have been driving my reaction? Or what core value was being challenged?
Okay, so instead of just writing so and so said this and I got upset, I'd write that and then follow up with questions like, why did that particular comment bother me so much? Or what does that tell me about my own beliefs or expectations?
Exactly. You're not just observing the surface. You're digging deeper, past the immediate emotional response, to the roots of your thoughts and feelings. Another effective technique is mindful reflection. This involves setting aside dedicated time, even just a few minutes each day, to simply sit and observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Just observe? That sounds simpler, but maybe harder to do than journaling. My mind races.
It can be challenging at first because our minds are often very busy. The key is to approach it with the same gentle curiosity you'd use when observing a fascinating natural phenomenon. You notice a thought, acknowledge it, there's a thought about work, or here's a feeling of gratitude, and then let it pass like a cloud drifting across the sky.
So, not getting caught up in the thought, but noticing it and letting it go.
Precisely. And as you practice this, you start to notice patterns. You might consistently find yourself having anxious thoughts about a certain topic or recurring feelings of frustration in specific types of situations. This is where the power of self-inquiry truly shines. You can then formulate specific questions to explore these patterns.
Can you give us an example?
Certainly. Imagine you notice you frequently feel anxious when you have a deadline approaching. Instead of just accepting that anxiety as a given, you could ask yourself, what specifically about this deadline triggers my anxiety? What is the worst case scenario I am imagining, and how likely is it? Or what resources or strategies can I draw upon to manage this feeling?
So it's about breaking down the anxiety into smaller, more manageable parts and then questioning the underlying fears or beliefs.
You've got it. Self-inquiry helps you to unpack complex internal experiences. It's like being a detective of your own mind. And remember our focus on asking better questions? When applied to self-inquiry, this means asking yourself questions that are open-ended, that encourage exploration, and that are free from judgment.
So, instead of, why am I so bad at this? Which is a bit accusatory, it would be more like, what can I learn from this situation? Or what steps can I take to improve?
Exactly. That's a perfect example of shifting from a self-critical question to a self-growth-oriented question. This practice of self-inquiry is fundamental for building a stronger, more authentic connection with yourself. It allows you to truly understand your inner landscape, your values, your motivations, your fears, and your strengths. This understanding then empowers you to live a more intentional and fulfilling life.
So, to recap, self inquiry is about turning our curiosity inward to understand our motivations, values, and beliefs. We can practice it through guided journaling with probing questions and through mindful reflection, observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. We also learn to ask open ended, non judgmental questions to explore our internal patterns, much like a detective.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. This practice of looking within, of holding that mirror up to ourselves with thoughtful questions, is a cornerstone of personal growth. It helps us to understand why we do what we do and to make choices that are more aligned with who we truly want to be.
And it really does feel like a way to build a stronger connection with ourselves. It's like getting to know yourself on a much deeper level.
Exactly. And building on this foundation of understanding ourselves, in our next episode, we'll explore how to apply these powerful questioning skills to a very important area of life, parenting. Next episode, Cultivating Curiosity in Parenting.
Welcome back to the Question Habit. We explored self inquiry. Now let's talk parenting.
That's right, Alex. Episode 5 is about cultivating curiosity in parenting. Many parents feel they must have all the answers, but asking the right questions can be far more beneficial.
Exactly. This brings us back to the Socratic method. Instead of telling children what to do, we can ask them why they think a certain approach might work, encouraging them to think it through.
So, we shift from being the sole provider of information to being a guide. This empowers children. They're not just passively absorbing facts, they're actively engaging their minds. Picture a child struggling with a toy. Instead of fixing it for them, we could ask, what have you tried so far? Or what do you think might be the issue here?
Precisely. This cultivates critical thinking. When children solve problems themselves, they build essential skills. It's like teaching them to fish rather than just giving them a fish. We can apply coaching techniques here. Open-ended questions are the cornerstone of this.
Open ended questions, those that can't be answered with a simple yes or no, right? They encourage children to share more. For example, instead of asking, did you have a good day at school? We could try, what was the most interesting thing that happened today? Or tell me about something that made you laugh.
Absolutely. And by asking questions like these, you demonstrate genuine interest. This helps build a strong, trusting relationship. Children feel genuinely heard and valued. We'll explore active listening more in episode 9, but its importance is clear even now.
And how does this impact emotional intelligence? Asking questions can help children understand their own feelings and those of others.
That's a fantastic point, Lisa. When a child is upset, instead of just saying, "Don't cry," we can ask, "What's making you feel sad right now?" Or if they seem angry, "What happened that made you feel upset?" This validates their emotions. It helps them to identify and name what they're experiencing.
So they learn to recognize their feelings instead of burying them. That's incredibly important for emotional regulation. It's like giving them the vocabulary to describe their internal world.
Precisely. And it can also help them develop empathy. If they've upset a sibling, we can ask, "How do you think that made your brother or sister feel?" This prompts them to consider another person's point of view.
This approach seems much more effective than simply laying down rules without exploring the why behind them. It's about teaching them concepts like fairness and kindness through guided exploration.
Exactly. Now, the way we apply this will vary with age. With younger children, the questions might be simpler like, "What color is that car?" Or "What sounds do you hear?" For older children, you can engage them in discussions about more complex thoughts and feelings.
So, the fundamental idea is to encourage curiosity and independent thinking, regardless of age. It's about helping them explore the world around them and their own inner lives with confidence.
And consistency is vital. Make these kinds of questions a regular part of your interactions. It's not about having all the perfect answers, but about fostering an environment where questions are welcomed and learning happens collaboratively. We are nurturing thoughtful, curious children and helping them grow.
It's about establishing a strong foundation for lifelong learning and self-awareness. By asking questions, we demonstrate that it's okay not to have all the answers and that the pursuit of understanding is valuable. We are helping them develop their own question habit from an early age.
And this, in turn, can lead to increased independence and resilience. Children who are accustomed to thinking for themselves are better equipped to navigate life's challenges.
So, to quickly summarize this episode on cultivating curiosity in parenting, we are shifting our role from being the primary source of answers to becoming the encouragers of questions. This empowers children by fostering critical thinking and problem-solving abilities. Open-ended questions are crucial for encouraging detailed responses and showing sincere interest, which strengthens the parent-child connection. Inquiring about their feelings helps children build emotional intelligence and empathy. Ultimately, we are building a strong foundation for independent, resilient, and lifelong learners.
Well said, Lisa. This method of using questions to guide and encourage is an incredibly powerful tool for parents. It's a pathway to nurturing capable, curious, and well-adjusted individuals.
It truly is. It's about planting those early seeds of curiosity and then tending to them with thoughtful questions.
And that concludes our discussion on parenting. Next episode, we will shift our focus to the workplace, exploring how to lead with insightful questions. Next episode, leading with insightful questions. Welcome back to the question habit. Last time, we explored how to cultivate curiosity in parenting. Today, we're shifting our focus to the exciting world of leadership.
That's right, Alex. We're diving into episode 6, leading with insightful questions. So, for all our listeners who are in leadership roles or aspire to be, this one is for you.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, when we think about leadership, what's the first thing that comes to mind regarding questions?
Well, I guess it's about getting information and guiding people. But I imagine there's a lot more nuance than just asking, "Did you finish that report?"
Exactly. The most effective leaders don't just direct, they inspire and empower. And a massive part of that is asking the right questions. We're talking about using questions to ignite innovation, foster collaboration, and help your team navigate challenges. This isn't about having all the answers yourself. It's about creating an environment where the best answers can emerge.
So, it's like a leader's superpower, but instead of laser eyes, it's powerful questions?
I like that analogy. Think about it. When you ask a truly insightful question, you're not just gathering data. You're prompting someone to think deeper, to reframe a problem, or to consider a new perspective. This is where the magic happens. We're going to explore three key types of questions that leaders can leverage: Socratic questions, coaching questions, and questions rooted in self-inquiry.
Socratic, coaching, and self-inquiry. Okay, let's break those down. You mentioned Socratic questions last time in the context of questioning assumptions. How does that apply to leading a team?
Great question, Lisa. Socratic questioning, in a leadership context, is about probing beneath the surface. Instead of accepting an idea or a problem at face value, you use a series of questions to uncover underlying assumptions, explore different viewpoints, and reveal logical consequences. For example, if a team member proposes a new strategy, a Socratic leader might ask, "What evidence led you to believe this approach will be successful?" Or what might be the unintended consequences of this strategy?
So, it's about encouraging critical thinking within the team rather than just accepting the first answer.
Precisely. It's about fostering a culture where assumptions are challenged respectfully and where deeper understanding is valued. This prevents costly mistakes by exposing potential flaws early on. It also empowers team members because they're actively involved in the problem-solving process. They feel their contributions are valued because their thinking is being explored and respected.
That makes sense. It moves them from just executing to truly understanding and contributing to the why behind the work. Now, what about coaching questions? How do those differ?
Coaching questions are about unlocking potential. They are open-ended, future-focused, and designed to help individuals find their own solutions and develop their skills. Imagine a team member is struggling with a project. Instead of jumping in with a solution, a leader using coaching questions might ask, "What have you tried so far?" Or "What are your ideas for overcoming this challenge?"
So it's about guiding them to find their own answers rather than giving them the answers. What resources might help you with this? Or what's one small step you could take right now?
You're already thinking like a coach. These questions empower individuals to take ownership of their development and problem solving. It builds their confidence and resilience. Over time, a team that's consistently coached with these types of questions becomes more self-sufficient and innovative. They learn to trust their own judgment.
I can see how that would build a stronger, more capable team. And then we have self-inquiry questions for leaders. How does a leader use self-inquiry to lead others?
This is about leading yourself first. Self-inquiry questions are about introspection and self-awareness. For a leader, this means asking themselves, what are my own biases influencing this decision? Or am I truly listening or just waiting to speak? It's about understanding your own impact on the team dynamics.
So, it's also about checking your own assumptions and your own emotional state?
Exactly. A leader who is self-aware can better understand their team's reactions and motivations. For instance, if there's tension in a meeting, a self-inquiring leader might pause and ask themselves, is my communication style contributing to this tension? This self-reflection allows them to adjust their approach for better outcomes. It's about modeling vulnerability and a commitment to personal growth, which in turn creates a safer environment for others to do the same.
So, to recap this part, Socratic questions help leaders get to the root of issues and challenge assumptions. Coaching questions empower team members to find their own solutions and grow, and self-inquiry questions help leaders understand their own influence and improve their approach.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Remember when we discussed the mirror of self-inquiry in episode 4? This is where that concept directly applies to leadership. Leaders who continually question themselves are better equipped to understand and guide others.
It's all interconnected, isn't it? Now, let's talk practical application. How can a leader start implementing these questioning strategies, especially if their team isn't used to this kind of interaction?
Start small. And be consistent. Begin by incorporating one or two of these questions into your regular interactions. For example, during your next one-on-one meeting, try asking a coaching question like, "What's your ideal outcome for this project?" instead of leading with tasks. With your team, when a new idea comes up, try a Socratic question like, "What makes you say that?" to encourage deeper thought. With self-inquiry, simply take a moment at the end of the day to ask yourself, what went well today, and what could I have approached differently?
So, it's not about a dramatic overhaul, but a gradual shift in the communication style.
Precisely. And it's crucial to create psychological safety. Your team needs to feel safe to express ideas, admit mistakes, and ask questions without fear of ridicule or punishment. As a leader, you set the tone. When you model curiosity and a willingness to explore, your team will follow.
And what about navigating difficult conversations? We've touched on that briefly, but how do these questions specifically help a leader steer through those challenging moments?
In difficult conversations, questions can be de-escalators and problem solvers. Instead of making accusations, a leader can use questions to understand the other person's perspective. For example, if there's conflict between two team members, instead of taking sides, a leader could ask each person, "Can you tell me more about your experience of this situation?" Or, "What would a good resolution look like to you?" These questions open the door for empathy and collaborative problem solving.
It shifts the dynamic from confrontation to collaboration. It's like building a bridge with words.
A very insightful analogy, Lisa. And for driving innovation, these questions are essential. Think about brainstorming sessions. Instead of asking any ideas, a leader can ask more stimulating questions like, "What's the wackiest idea we can think of to solve this problem?" Or, "If we had unlimited resources, what would we do?" These prompts encourage out-of-the-box thinking and can lead to breakthrough innovations.
So, good leadership isn't about having all the answers, but about asking the right questions to help your team and yourself discover them. It's about fostering that inquisitive spirit.
Exactly. It's about cultivating what we've been talking about throughout this series, the question habit. By embedding these powerful questioning techniques, leaders can transform their teams from mere executors into engaged, innovative problem solvers. They become better at guiding, mentoring, and ultimately leading their teams to success.
In essence, leading with questions means empowering others to think, to grow, and to contribute their best.
And that's a powerful way to lead. We've explored Socratic, coaching, and self-inquiry questions, and how they can foster innovation, solve problems, and build stronger teams.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to the question habit. Ask better. Get answers. Today, we focus on how questions fuel personal growth.
Personal growth. It's something so many people strive for, but it can feel like a big, abstract idea. How do questions, specifically, help us grow as individuals?
That's a fantastic question, Lisa, and it's exactly where we need to start. Think about it. Personal growth isn't about waiting for something to happen to you. It's an active pursuit, and the fuel for that pursuit is inquiry. Inquiry, our own questioning.
So, it's not just about asking others better questions, but asking ourselves better questions?
Precisely. We've touched on Socratic questioning, self-inquiry, and coaching your inner dialogue. Now, we're weaving those threads together to create a framework for individual development. The core idea is that by consistently asking powerful, self-directed questions, we can break through limitations, identify opportunities, and chart a clearer path toward our goals.
Can you give us an example? How might someone use questioning for personal growth in a tangible way?
Absolutely. Let's say someone wants to learn a new skill, like playing the guitar. Instead of just thinking, "I wish I could play guitar," which is a statement of desire, they can ask themselves growth-oriented questions. They might start with, what specific steps can I take today to begin learning guitar? Or what are the most crucial first chords to master?
That's so much more actionable. It moves from a wish to a plan.
Exactly. And then, as they progress, they continue the questioning. When they hit a plateau, instead of getting discouraged, they ask, what am I struggling with specifically, or what different practice approach could help me overcome this chord transition? This constant, self-directed questioning keeps them engaged and problem-solving.
It sounds like a way to build resilience too. When you're used to asking, why isn't this working? And turning it into, how can I make this work? You're more likely to stick with something.
You've hit on a key benefit, Lisa. It's about shifting from a fixed mindset, where challenges are seen as insurmountable, to a growth mindset, where challenges are opportunities for learning. Asking, what can I learn from this setback, is a growth-oriented question. Asking, why am I so bad at this, is a fixed mindset question that leads to discouragement.
I love that distinction. So, for personal growth, we're using questions to clarify our vision, break down goals into manageable steps, identify and overcome obstacles, and to keep ourselves accountable.
That's a perfect summary of the core functions. We're applying the principles we've learned about inquiry to our own lives. Remember when we discussed the Socratic method and challenging assumptions? We can do that with our own beliefs. For instance, if you believe, I'm not creative, you can turn that into a question, what activities could I try that are designed to spark creativity? Or am I defining creativity too narrowly?
And the coaching aspect of questioning your inner dialogue is so relevant here. It's like having an internal coach who's always prompting you to explore, to consider alternatives, and to push your boundaries in a supportive way.
Precisely. Imagine your inner dialogue as a conversation. If it's dominated by statements and judgments, growth stagnates. But if it's a curious, questioning dialogue, exploration and learning happen. So, instead of I failed that presentation, it's what could I have done differently in that presentation to be more effective? And then, what specific skills can I develop to improve future presentations?
This makes cultivating the habit of asking questions feel really empowering for self-improvement journeys. It's not about waiting for external validation or answers, but actively creating them for yourself.
And it's about continuous learning. The world is constantly changing, and our own skills and perspectives need to evolve with it. A question habit naturally fosters a lifelong learning mindset. Think about learning a new technology, adapting to a career change, or even just understanding a new perspective someone shares. Asking clarifying questions, what is this concept at its core? Or how does this connect to what I already know? Will accelerate your understanding and adaptation.
It's like building a personal knowledge engine. You feed it curiosity through questions, and it generates understanding.
That's an excellent analogy, Lisa. It's about actively seeking out the how and the why, not just accepting things on the surface. This proactive approach is what truly drives personal growth. It moves you from being a passenger in your own life to being the driver, with your questions as your navigation system.
So, to recap, for personal growth, we're using our question habit to first, clarify our desires and goals. Second, break down those goals into actionable steps. Third, identify and overcome obstacles by asking, how can I, instead of dwelling on why can't I? And fourth, foster a continuous learning mindset that keeps us evolving.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. It's about embracing curiosity as a constant companion on your journey of self-discovery and development. When you make asking questions a habit, you're not just seeking answers. You're actively shaping who you are becoming.
It feels like a natural progression from all the previous topics we've covered. Taking that outward focus of asking great questions and turning it beneficially inward for our own evolution.
Exactly. And speaking of evolution, in our next episode, we'll tackle some common challenges people face when trying to build these powerful habits. We'll explore overcoming questioning roadblocks. back to the question habit. We've explored the power of asking questions.
That's right, Alex. We've built a strong case for why asking better questions is so crucial. But as many of you might be experiencing, building any new habit can come with its own set of challenges.
Exactly, Lisa. Today in episode 8, we're diving deep into those very issues. We're going to talk about overcoming questioning roadblocks. We'll identify the common hurdles people face when trying to embrace the question habit, and, more importantly, we'll arm you with practical strategies to navigate and overcome them.
So, what are some of the biggest roadblocks people encounter?
One of the most common, and I think very relatable, is the fear of asking. This fear often stems from a few places. There's the fear of looking foolish or ignorant. We worry that if we ask a question, people will think we don't know what we're talking about.
Oh, I can definitely see that. It feels safer sometimes to just nod along, even if you're completely lost, than to admit you don't understand something.
Precisely. And it's a powerful ingrained response. We're often taught to have the answers, to be the one who knows. Asking a question can feel like revealing a vulnerability. Another aspect of this fear is the worry about bothering others or taking up their time with our questions.
That's a good point. We don't want to be perceived as demanding or overly needy. So, how can someone combat this fear of asking?
The first step is to reframe your perspective. Instead of seeing a question as a sign of weakness, reframe it as a sign of strength, curiosity, and a desire to truly understand. Think about it. When someone asks a thoughtful question, doesn't it often show they're engaged and intelligent, rather than the opposite? We want to start associating asking questions with engagement, not ignorance.
That's a great way to look at it. So, it's about shifting the internal narrative.
Absolutely. Then, practice in low-stakes environments. Ask questions in situations where the pressure is off. Maybe in a casual conversation with a friend or about a topic you already have some familiarity with. Gradually increase the challenges. Also, preparing your questions beforehand can build confidence. If you have a meeting, jot down a few thoughtful questions in advance. You're not just randomly asking, you're coming prepared.
That makes sense. Confidence builds with practice, and preparation can be a big confidence booster. What's another common roadblock?
A big one is the feeling of intellectual insufficiency. This is the inner critic that whispers, "You're not smart enough to ask that question," or "Someone else has probably already thought of that." It's a form of imposter syndrome, really.
Yes, that feeling of not being enough can be incredibly paralyzing. It stops us before we even try.
It does. And it's particularly pernicious because it attacks our confidence at its core. To overcome this, we need to actively challenge that inner voice. Remind yourself that everyone has unique perspectives. Your question, even if it seems basic to you, might be the very thing that sparks deeper understanding for others or highlights a nuance that was overlooked. Remember that learning is a continuous process and no one knows everything.
So, it's about acknowledging that personal perspective is valuable, even if it feels imperfect.
Exactly. And remembering that the greatest minds, the innovators, the scientists, they all started with questions. Einstein famously said, "I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious." Curiosity is the fuel, not necessarily a pre-existing genius.
That's a powerful reminder. What about the comfort of giving answers? We've spent so much of our lives being trained to be the one with the solutions.
That is a significant roadblock. For many, especially those in professional roles, there's immense comfort and even validation in providing answers. It feels productive, decisive, and knowledgeable. Shifting to asking questions can feel like you're stepping away from that perceived authority or control.
It's like switching gears from driving the car to navigating with a map and asking for directions. Both are necessary, but one feels more active and in charge.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. The key here is to recognize that asking powerful questions is a form of leadership and problem solving. It guides the conversation, uncovers deeper issues, and empowers others to find their own solutions. It's not about relinquishing control, but about leveraging a different, often more effective tool.
So, instead of seeing it as giving up the answer, see it as facilitating the best answer.
Precisely. Practice asking questions that prompt deeper thinking in others, rather than just seeking information for yourself. For example, instead of "Did you finish the report?" try "What are your thoughts on the best way to approach the next steps for this report?" This shifts the focus from a simple yes/no to a more collaborative exploration.
I love that. It reframes the interaction entirely. Are there any other mental habits that hinder us?
Yes, there's a tendency towards assumption. We assume we know what someone means, or we assume we understand a situation, and therefore we don't feel the need to ask clarifying questions. This is how misunderstandings and errors creep in.
That I know what you're going to say, trap.
Exactly. Overcoming this means consciously pausing before you respond or act. Ask yourself, what am I assuming here? Is there another way to interpret this? What do I truly need to understand to move forward effectively? Develop a habit of seeking clarification, even on things that seem obvious. Phrases like, "So if I understand correctly, you're saying," or "Could you elaborate a bit on," can be incredibly powerful.
It's about building in a pause for verification. And I imagine, as we've discussed in past episodes, those pauses also tie into active listening, which we'll cover more in episode 9.
Absolutely. They're deeply interconnected. Finally, let's touch on the sheer inertia of habits. We're creatures of habit. Sticking to our old ways of responding by providing definitive answers or staying silent is much easier than actively choosing to ask a question.
It's like needing to build a new muscle. It takes effort and consistency to make the new movement feel natural.
Exactly. And the way to build that muscle is through consistent, deliberate practice. Every time you catch yourself wanting to give an answer, consciously pause and try to formulate a clarifying or exploring question. Celebrate small wins. Notice when you successfully used a question to gain insight or help someone else. Over time, these small consistencies accumulate and build a strong habit.
So, to recap, Alex, the main roadblocks we've discussed are the fear of asking, the feeling of intellectual insufficiency, the comfort of giving answers, the tendency to assume, and simply the inertia of old habits.
That's right, Lisa. And the strategies we've touched upon involve reframing our perspective on asking, practicing in low-stakes environments, challenging our inner critic, recognizing the power of facilitation over direct answers, actively seeking clarification, and crucially, consistent, deliberate practice.
It sounds like the journey to mastering the question habit isn't always smooth, but with awareness and these practical tools, these roadblocks become surmountable.
They absolutely do. You're not alone in facing these challenges, but you are equipped to overcome them.
Fantastic. So, we've tackled the hurdles. What's next on our journey?
Next episode, the art of active listening.
That sounds essential. Join us for episode 9.
We'll see you there. Welcome back to the question habit. Last time, we explored how to overcome common roadblocks that can prevent us from asking insightful questions. Today, we're diving into a skill that's absolutely essential for making those questions land with impact. We're talking about the art of active listening.
Active listening. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But Alex, I think it's one of those things we all think we do, but very few of us do it well. It's so easy to get caught up in what we're going to say next, or to be distracted.
Exactly, Lisa. In the context of our book, if asking great questions is like wielding a powerful tool, active listening is the skilled hand that knows how to use it effectively. It's not just about hearing words. It's about truly understanding the meaning and the emotion behind them. Think of it as a dance. One person asks, the other listens deeply. Then the roles might shift.
So, How does active listening actually make our questions more powerful? I suppose if you really understand someone, your questions will be more relevant, more targeted?
Precisely. When you listen actively, you're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You're paying full attention. You're noticing nonverbal cues, body language, tone of voice. You're trying to grasp the speaker's perspective, their feelings, and their underlying needs. This deep understanding allows you to ask questions that are not superficial, but that get to the heart of the matter. It's the Socratic method in action, remember? Socrates didn't just fire off questions. He engaged in a dialogue, building on what the other person said.
That makes so much sense. It's like if I'm trying to coach someone and I just bombard them with questions without really listening to their answers, I'm going to miss crucial information. My follow-up questions will be off the mark.
Absolutely. Active listening is the bedrock of effective coaching. A good coach doesn't tell you what to do. They ask questions that help you discover the answers yourself. But they can only do that if they are fully present and attentive to you. They listen for what you're saying, what you're not saying, and the emotions that color your words.
So, what are the key components of active listening? How can our listeners actually practice this?
Great question. Let's break it down. First, there's paying attention. This means making eye contact, nodding to show you're engaged, and putting away distractions. It sounds basic, but how often do we pull out our phones or let our minds wander when someone is talking to us?
Oh, guilty as charged sometimes. It's hard to resist that urge to check a notification.
It is, but consciously resisting is the first step. Second, we have showing you're listening. This goes beyond just nodding. It involves verbal affirmations like, I see, or that's interesting. These small sounds let the speaker know you're processing what they're saying.
So, you're not just passively hearing, you're actively encouraging them to continue by signaling you're with them.
Exactly. And this leads to the third critical component, providing feedback. This is where we often see the biggest difference between just hearing and actively listening. Providing feedback involves summarizing what the speaker has said in your own words. Phrases like, so, if I understand correctly, you're saying, or it sounds like you're feeling, are your best friends here.
This is brilliant. It allows the speaker to clarify any misunderstandings and confirms that you've truly grasped their meaning. It's like a built-in quality control for communication.
Precisely. It also prevents assumptions. We all make assumptions, but active listening helps us check them. And then, there's deferring judgment. This is tough. It means listening without jumping to conclusions, without interrupting to correct them, or without immediately offering unsolicited advice. You're creating a safe space for the speaker to express themselves fully.
Deferring judgment, that's a big one. Our brains are wired to solve problems. So, when someone tells us a problem, our first instinct is to fix it. But sometimes people just need to be heard.
They absolutely do. And when they feel truly heard, they're often more open to suggestions or solutions later on. This brings us back to the Socratic approach. The Socratic method isn't about proving the other person wrong. It's about exploring ideas together. Active listening is the engine that makes this exploration possible. By truly understanding someone's current beliefs or assumptions, we can then craft questions that gently guide them towards deeper insight.
It's like we're building a bridge to their understanding. If we're not listening to where they're standing, we can't build a bridge that actually reaches them.
That's a fantastic analogy, Lisa. Now, let's tie this back to the coaching and parenting examples we've touched upon. In parenting, if a child is upset and you rush to tell them why they shouldn't be upset, you've shut down communication. But if you listen actively, reflect their feelings, it sounds like you're really frustrated because they feel understood. Only then can you ask a question like, what could make this situation feel a little better for you?
And that question, asked from a place of genuine understanding, is far more likely to elicit a helpful response than a dismissive statement.
Exactly. This is the power of combining asking and listening. One amplifies the other. When you combine active listening with the insightful questions we've discussed, you foster deeper connections, build trust, and facilitate genuine growth. You're not just having a conversation. You're creating a space for discovery.
So, to recap, Active listening involves paying attention, showing you're listening with verbal cues, providing feedback by summarizing, and deferring judgment. By mastering these techniques, we can ensure our questions are heard, understood, and truly impactful. It's the perfect complement to our questioning habit.
You've nailed it, Lisa. And remember, this isn't about perfection overnight. It's a habit. Like asking questions, it takes practice. Start small. Focus on one component in your next conversation.
Next episode, we'll explore frameworks for crafting really powerful questions that build on this foundation of active listening.
That's right. We'll be looking at frameworks for powerful questions. Don't miss it. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time we covered the art of active listening. Now, let's tackle frameworks for powerful questions.
That's right, Alex. We've talked a lot about why asking good questions is important and how to listen well. Now, we're going to give our listeners some concrete tools, some structures to help them build those impactful questions. It's like moving from knowing you need to build a house to having a blueprint.
Exactly. And the first framework I want to introduce is rooted in the coaching world. We start with understanding the current situation. Think of questions that begin with what is or describe.
So, if someone wants to improve their fitness, a what is question might be, what does your current fitness routine look like? Or, what challenges do you face with exercise right now? It's about getting a clear picture of where we are.
Precisely. And then we move to defining the goal. This is where we ask about the desired future state. Questions here often start with what do you want to achieve? Or what would success look like? If we're using our fitness example, the goal question could be, what specific fitness goal do you want to reach in the next 3 months?
And this helps to clearly define what we're aiming for, making it measurable and tangible. It takes it from a vague wish to something concrete.
Absolutely. The next step is about exploring the options or obstacles. This is where we ask how. Questions. How might you overcome that challenge? Or how could you move closer to your goal? This is the brainstorming phase.
In our fitness example, that might lead to questions like, how can you fit in more exercise on busy weekdays? Or, how could you find a workout buddy for motivation? It's about generating possibilities.
And it is. And finally, we focus on solidifying commitment and action. These questions often start with what will you do next? Or what is your first step? For a fitness goal, it could be what one small step will you take this week to get started? Or when will you schedule your first workout?
So, to summarize that framework, first, we ask questions to understand what is happening now. Then, we ask questions about what do you want to achieve. Next, we explore how can you get there and what are the possibilities. And finally, what will you do as a result? It's a really logical flow for problem solving or goal setting.
It is, and it's incredibly versatile. You can use it for personal goals, for team projects, or even in everyday conversations to help someone think through a situation. Now, let's pivot to another powerful approach, one that leans heavily on curiosity, especially in the Socratic tradition we touched upon. This is about probing assumptions.
The what if questions. Those can be a bit disarming, but so revealing.
They can. The core idea here is to identify the underlying beliefs or assumptions someone is holding and then question them gently. For example, if someone states, I could never run a marathon, a probing question might be, what makes you believe that you could never run a marathon?
That immediately challenges the absolute nature of never. It invites them to look at the evidence for that belief. It's not accusatory, it's curious.
Exactly. Or consider a statement like, this project will definitely fail. A curious, assumption-probing question could be, what information are you basing that prediction on? Or what would need to happen for this project to not fail?
That second one flips it on its head and encourages them to think about the conditions for success, which is a much more productive line of thought. These questions help us see the scaffolding that holds up our opinions and decisions.
They do. And another valuable set of questions centers on reframing. This is about looking at a situation from multiple perspectives. We can ask, if you were looking at this from another person's point of view, what might you see? Or, what's another way to interpret this situation?
This is so important, especially when we feel stuck. It forces us out of our own head and into a broader understanding. It's like putting on different hats.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. And remember how much we emphasized active listening? We can apply that directly to question crafting. When listening, we want to identify areas of confusion or areas where more detail is needed. Great questions often arise from those moments. We can ask clarifying questions like, could you tell me more about what you mean by X? Or so, if I understand correctly, you're saying Y.
Those are the glue that holds understanding together. They confirm comprehension and gently pull for more information without being intrusive. It shows you're engaged and processing what they're saying.
Absolutely. And building on that, we can also ask expanding questions. These are designed to broaden the scope or deepen the inquiry. Think of questions like, what are the implications of that? Or what other factors might be involved here?
So, we've got the structured approach for goal-oriented inquiry, assumption-probing questions to challenge beliefs, reframing questions to shift perspective, and clarifying and expanding questions that come directly from active listening.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. We've covered a lot of ground on practical frameworks. The key is to recognize that questions aren't just random utterances. They can be intentionally designed tools. By consciously choosing the type of question we ask, we can unlock different levels of insight, encourage deeper thinking, and foster more productive conversations.
It really empowers us to be more deliberate in our interactions and in our own self-reflection. It's about moving from just asking any question to asking the right question for the moment.
Precisely. And what we've discussed today gives you the building blocks for that. Think about which framework might best serve your current situation when you find yourself needing to ask a truly impactful question.
So, to recap a bit, we've introduced a four-part structure for goal-oriented inquiry: understanding the present, defining the goal, exploring options, and planning the way forward. We've also discussed how to probe underlying assumptions, reframe situations by considering different viewpoints, and use clarifying and expanding questions stemming from active listening. These frameworks are your toolkit for asking better questions.
Indeed. And these tools will serve you in incredible ways. Next episode, questioning for well-being and mind-body connection. Welcome back. Last time, we dove deep into frameworks for crafting truly powerful questions. Today, we're shifting our focus to well-being and the mind-body connection.
That sounds fascinating, Alex. How can the habit of asking questions actually help us manage that connection better?
Remember how we started this series emphasizing that asking questions is an active form of engagement? Well, that engagement can extend inward to our own bodies and minds. When we become more curious about our internal landscape, we empower ourselves to understand and respond to our needs more effectively.
So, instead of just feeling a headache and popping a painkiller, we might ask ourselves why we have a headache?
Precisely. That's a perfect example. We can move beyond just treating symptoms to understanding root causes. Asking questions like, what was I doing leading up to this headache? Or how much water have I had today? Helps us gather clues. It's like an internal diagnostic tool powered by our own curiosity.
I love that framing, an internal diagnostic tool. And it ties back to the Socratic approach we discussed early on, doesn't it? Challenging our assumptions about physical discomfort.
Absolutely. And it also connects to the self-inquiry we talked about. Instead of accepting a feeling at face value, we gently probe. We can ask questions that foster mindfulness. For instance, when you notice tension in your shoulders, a mindful question might be, what am I holding on to right now, both physically and emotionally?
That's a really powerful question to consider. It's not judgmental, it's simply observational. It allows for a moment of pause and awareness.
And that pause is vital for stress reduction. Our bodies often signal stress long before we consciously acknowledge it. By asking questions like, where am I feeling this stress in my body? Or what is my breath doing right now? We can interrupt the stress response. We allow ourselves to feel it without being overwhelmed.
It's like becoming a more attentive observer of our own internal weather report. And I imagine this practice can also help us understand our physical needs more deeply. For example, hunger or fatigue.
You're spot on. We often eat out of habit, boredom, or stress. Asking ourselves, am I truly hungry or am I thirsty? Am I seeking comfort? What does my body actually need right now? Can transform our relationship with food and energy levels. It's about moving from automatic responses to conscious choices based on real signals.
So, we're essentially building a richer vocabulary for our body's signals through these questions. Instead of just tired, we might discern between physically exhausted, mentally drained, or emotionally depleted.
Exactly. And this deeper understanding fosters greater self-compassion. When we can ask, what does my body need to heal or feel better right now? We're speaking to ourselves with kindness. We're acknowledging our vulnerability and our inherent need for care. This is a core aspect of well-being.
It sounds like this habit can be a pathway to greater physical resilience, too. If we're better at noticing the early signs of imbalance, we can address them before they become major issues.
That's a key benefit. Think about it as preventative care, actively practiced by you for you. It's not about having all the answers, but about developing the habit of asking them. And remember, this ties back to the idea of cultivating curiosity we explored earlier. Curiosity about ourselves, our physical and mental states, leads to greater self-knowledge.
So, to recap this segment, we've explored how asking insightful questions can directly enhance our well-being by fostering mindfulness, reducing stress, and promoting a deeper understanding of our mind-body connection. We've seen how questions like, why am I feeling this? Or what does my body need? Can move us from reactive symptoms to proactive self-care.
Well summarized, Lisa, and this ability to ask helpful, probing questions is also incredibly valuable when we need to navigate more delicate interpersonal situations, which, naturally, leads us to our next topic of discussion.
I'm ready. What's next in our question habit journey?
In our next episode, we'll demonstrate how to apply this powerful habit to those challenging chats. We're going to explore navigating difficult conversations with questions.
Excellent. So, next time, we'll learn how to apply this powerful questioning habit to those challenging chats.
That's right. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the question habit. Today we're navigating difficult conversations.
Difficult conversations. They can make your palms sweat, Alex. We're talking about moments where stakes are high, opinions differ, or emotions run hot.
Exactly. And it's in these situations that asking good questions becomes essential. Remember active listening and empathy? This is where we apply those skills with our question habit.
So, Alex, how do we practically use questions when things get tough, when we feel defensive?
The first step is a mindset shift. Instead of aiming to prove you're right, we aim to understand. We move from judgment to curiosity.
Curiosity is a big one. It's hard when you feel misunderstood or hurt.
It is, and the habit means we practice curiosity even when uncomfortable. So, instead of accusations, try an open-ended question like, can you help me understand your perspective on this? Or what's your primary concern here?
Help me understand sounds much less confrontational than you're wrong.
Precisely. It signals a willingness to learn and invites the other person to share without immediate defensiveness. And we must listen to understand, not just to reply.
So, we ask an open-ended question and listen. What's next?
Absolutely. Once they share, we can use clarifying questions. These ensure we've grasped it correctly. If someone says, I feel like I'm doing all the work, ask, when you say all the work, what specific tasks are you referring to? Or could you give me an example?
So, we're not saying, that's not true, but rather, tell me more about what that looks like for you.
Exactly. We seek specifics to build a clearer picture. This de-escalates because the other person feels heard, even if you don't agree. It's about acknowledging their feelings and perception.
This is like the coaching questions we discussed, but in a high-stakes context.
It's similar. Coaching questions empower individuals to find their own solutions. In difficult conversations, we use gentle, exploratory questions to help both parties move towards resolution. Think about questions that explore options. What might be a way forward that addresses both our concerns? Or what outcome would you ideally like to see?
And those questions shift the focus from blame to solutions. That's powerful.
It is. Another aspect is managing our own emotional responses. When triggered, our instinct might be to shut down or lash out. Asking ourselves a quick question can help. Like, what is this emotion telling me I need right now? Or what assumption am I making?
That's a great internal check-in. We're using questions to understand others, to clarify, and even to manage our own reactions. What pitfalls should we watch for?
A big one is asking why questions when emotions are high. Why did you do that? Can sound accusatory and challenge motives, putting people on the defensive.
Right? It feels like an interrogation, not a conversation.
Exactly. We pivot to questions that explore impact or desired action. Instead of why did you disregard my suggestion? Ask, how can we ensure my suggestions are considered in the future? Or what was your thinking process behind that decision? Using thinking process softens the why.
That's a subtle but important distinction. It rephrases the query to be less about judgment and more about process or future improvement.
We also need to be mindful of rhetorical questions. These aren't seeking answers. They're designed to make a point, often critical. For example, are you even listening to me? Is an accusation.
Oh, I can see myself doing that when frustrated. It's a jab disguised as a question.
It can feel that way. So, we want to ensure our questions genuinely seek information, understanding, or collaboration. Let's recap the key ideas for navigating difficult conversations with questions. First, approach with curiosity and a goal of understanding, not winning.
Second, use open-ended questions to invite the other person to share their perspective.
Third, employ clarifying and specific questions to ensure you fully grasp what's being communicated and to avoid assumptions.
Fourth, use solution-oriented questions to move the conversation forward constructively.
And finally, be aware of your own emotional triggers and use internal questions to manage them, while avoiding accusatory, why questions or rhetorical jabs.
Practicing these questions can transform a damaging encounter into an opportunity for connection and resolution. It's about building bridges, not walls.
Well said, Lisa. This approach, when practiced consistently, can improve our relationships. We've covered the power of asking questions, from self-inquiry to building better conversations.
We're nearing the end of our series. In our next episode, we'll focus on how to embed this question habit into our lives for good, making it a lifelong practice.
Join us next time for episode 13, Embedding the Habit for Life. Welcome back to The Question Habit. We're on episode 13, focusing on making asking questions a permanent part of your life.
We've explored Socratic methods, inner dialogue, and navigating conversations. Now, how do we make this a deeply embedded habit, not just a fleeting interest?
It's about transitioning from doing the question habit to being someone who habitually asks good questions. Let's revisit some core pillars. Remember the Socratic method, systematically probing assumptions?
Yes, understanding the why behind things, not just accepting surface answers. It's like peeling back layers to reveal something new.
Precisely. To embed that, practice Socratic questioning daily. When you encounter information, pause. Ask, what are the underlying assumptions? What's the evidence? What if the opposite were true? Become a detective of knowledge.
That shifts perspective, actively engaging with information. And coaching your inner dialogue feels crucial for internalizing this, right?
Absolutely. Our inner monologue often runs on autopilot with unexamined beliefs. Coaching yourself means exploring your thoughts with curiosity. Instead of, I can't do this, ask, what steps could I take? Instead of, this is a disaster, ask, what can I learn?
That reframes challenges as opportunities, fostering a growth mindset. So, we should question our automatic reactions and internal conversations?
Yes, consistently. Think of it like building a muscle. The more you exercise introspective questioning, the more natural it becomes. And remember, the habit of asking requires active listening. You can't formulate insightful questions if you're not fully present.
True. Listening to respond is different from listening to understand. Truly listening picks up nuances, what's not said, fueling your next powerful question.
Exactly. This week, practice listening to understand in conversations. Then ask a clarifying or probing question based on what you've heard. Simple phrases like, can you tell me more? Or, how did that make you feel? Work well.
What about the practical aspects of embedding this? Revisiting simple question frameworks might make it less daunting.
Great point. Let's circle back to foundational question types. What questions gather facts and understand situations? How questions guide towards action and process? And why questions uncover motivations, assumptions, and deeper meaning?
So we have a toolkit: what, how, and why. When unsure, we can use these to guide our inquiry.
Precisely. To make it a habit, integrate it into daily routines. Your morning routine, commute, meetings, family time. Where can you intentionally inject a question? Reading the news. What's the most interesting question raised? In a team meeting, what might we be overlooking? With children, what was the most exciting part of your day and why?
It's about making those micro moments of inquiry natural, not waiting for a big moment. And cultivating a general disposition of curiosity, like we discussed with parenting.
Yes, curiosity fuels the question habit. A childlike wonder about the world will have you constantly asking questions. This also connects to well-being. Asking ourselves questions about our physical and emotional states. How am I really feeling? What does my body need? Leads to greater self-awareness and better health choices.
That's a wonderful connection. So, to recap for our listeners, embedding the question habit for life involves 1. Regularly practicing Socratic probing to examine assumptions. 2. Coaching your inner dialogue by questioning automatic thoughts. 3. Prioritizing active listening to fuel insightful follow-up questions. And 4. Integrating simple question frameworks like what, how, and why into daily routines and fostering curiosity.
Excellent summary, Lisa. It's about making small, consistent shifts in how you approach information in your inner world. Don't strive for perfection, strive for progress. Even one well-placed question can unlock new understanding.
And remember reflection. At the end of each day, review. Did I ask a good question today? What did I learn? What could I have asked differently? This reinforces learning.
This brings us to our final episode, where we'll look at becoming a perpetual learner. Until then, keep asking.
Next episode: The Perpetual Learner, a life of questions.
Welcome back to the Question Habit. This is our final episode, episode 14, where we wrap up our incredible journey into the power of asking better questions.
That's right, Alex. It's been a transformative series. We've explored how to unleash the unseen power of asking, delved into the Socratic method, coached our inner dialogue, and honed the art of self-inquiry. We've even looked at how asking the right questions can shape our parenting, leadership, and personal growth.
And we've tackled those crucial questioning roadblocks, learned the art of active listening, explored frameworks for crafting powerful questions, and even connected inquiry to our well-being, navigating difficult conversations, and embedding this habit for life. Today, we're focusing on the ultimate outcome, becoming a perpetual learner through a life of questions. Think of it as the capstone to everything we've learned.
A perpetual learner. I love that. It implies a continuous journey, always growing, always seeking. So, Alex, how does the questioning habit lead us to become that perpetual learner?
It's about embracing a mindset. Lisa, remember the early episodes? We talked about curiosity not just as a fleeting interest, but as a fundamental approach to life. A perpetual learner isn't someone who thinks they know everything. Instead, they understand that the world is vast and full of wonders, and the best way to explore it is by asking questions.
So, it's moving from a place of thinking you have the answers to a place of actively seeking new understanding through inquiry.
Exactly. Think about it. When you ask a question, you're opening a door. You're not just confirming what you already believe, you're inviting new information, new perspectives, and new possibilities. A perpetual learner is someone who isn't afraid to ask why, what if, or how could this be different?
And that connects back to the Socratic spark, doesn't it? Questioning assumptions we might hold about ourselves or the world. If we're not questioning our assumptions, we can get stuck in old ways of thinking.
Precisely. The Socratic method, at its core, is about challenging one's own beliefs and those of others through rigorous questioning. This critical thinking is the engine of perpetual learning. If you stop questioning your own understanding, you stop growing. You become stagnant.
And what about coaching our inner dialogue? That felt so personal. How does that tie into lifelong learning?
When we effectively coach our inner dialogue, we learn to be our own best mentor. We ask ourselves clarifying questions about our motivations, our fears, and our goals. This self-awareness is immense. It allows us to identify areas where we need to learn more, to be curious, and to seek external input. It's like having a constant internal coach nudging you towards growth.
So, it's not just about asking external experts, but also about becoming our own internal guide for learning. And the mirror of self-inquiry, that's where we really looked inward.
That's right. Self-inquiry is the practice of turning the questioning lens upon ourselves. For a perpetual learner, this means regularly asking, what did I learn from that experience? Or what could I have done differently to achieve a better outcome? This isn't about self-criticism. It's about active, conscious learning from every situation, whether it's a success or a setback.
It makes sense. When you're perpetually learning, you can't shy away from examining your own role in things. And we discussed how this applies in so many areas: parenting, leadership, personal growth.
Absolutely. In parenting, asking your child curious questions fosters their own sense of inquiry and learning. With leadership, asking insightful questions empowers your team and encourages a culture of continuous improvement. For personal growth, it's the very foundation. As we said before, the question habit is the habit for personal growth because it propels you forward.
And overcoming those questioning roadblocks we talked about felt so empowering. For someone who wants to be a perpetual learner, overcoming fear of sounding ignorant or the habit of making assumptions is key.
Definitely. Those roadblocks are what keep people from asking. If you can push past them, you unlock a constant stream of learning opportunities. And that directly links to active listening. To truly learn from others, you must listen intently to their answers, which often leads to further, deeper questions.
Yes, active listening is where the learning from others really solidifies. It's not just about preparing your next question. It's about truly absorbing what the other person is saying. And those frameworks for powerful questions gave us concrete tools.
They did. Having those frameworks, like focusing on open-ended questions, clarifying questions, or hypothetical questions, helps us move beyond casual conversation to meaningful inquiry. These tools are essential for anyone committed to a life of learning.
And we even saw how asking questions impacts our well-being, connecting the mind-body through inquiry, understanding our physical and emotional states better.
It's all interconnected. When you ask, "How is my body feeling today?" or "What does my stress tell me?" you're engaging in self-care through inquiry. It helps you understand your needs and respond to them effectively, which is crucial for sustained energy and learning. Navigating difficult conversations with questions is about resolving conflict and seeking understanding, which frees up mental space for further learning.
So, by the time we get to embedding the habit for life, it's not just a practice anymore. It's a way of being. It's integrated into our daily lives.
Precisely. And that's what being a perpetual learner is. It's not a destination, it's an ongoing commitment. It means accepting that there will always be more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand. The question habit isn't just about asking better questions. It's about cultivating a lifetime of curiosity. It's about approaching every new day, every new interaction, and every new challenge with an open mind and a willingness to inquire.
It's about realizing that the greatest discoveries and the most profound growth often begin with the simplest of questions. It's a philosophy that enriches every aspect of our lives.
Indeed. And as we close this series, remember this. The journey of the perpetual learner is one of constant discovery, fueled by the habit of asking. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep growing.
Thank you so much for joining us on this series, The Question Habit. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing these insights with you all. This journey of asking has been truly enlightening, and we hope it continues for you long after this episode.
Thanks for listening to the series.